everybody. Happy Saturday. Hopefully you're enjoying your day. Enjoying a bowl of Green Dragon in my 316 Savinelli Mila. Green Dragon's one of the Virginias I really do like. It's from the Middle Earth series from Country Squire. Really good. Really nice, sweet, tasty hay. It's good. It's got about a year on it, so it's coming into its own, which I enjoy. So anyhow, today just a Saturday pipe with a big glass of sweet tea and just talking. So been doing a lot of thinking lately, and this topic is going to be around listening to hear versus listening to respond. So I've been doing a lot of studying here recently. We're in the Battle of Midway. If you know me, you know I'm a Navy historian, kind of geeky guy. Love that stuff. Love the old history and how things took shape and took place. So anyhow, to the story. But so before Pearl Harbor, there was an admiral named Husband Kimmel. He was in charge of Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet. And they had told him the Japanese were going to attack. And I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to get too deep because I don't want to take 2 hours. And he kind of dismissed everybody. And America wasn't in the war. We weren't going to be in the war. We were staying neutral. Roosevelt wasn't pushing us one way or the other. But Japan knew they had to do something because we had the industrial might, and they got about 80% of their oil from us, and knew they had to strike. They had to strike. Now their navy was better than ours, and their fighting tactics were better than ours. Naval fighting tactics, especially. Their equipment was much better than ours. The Japanese Zero fighter was just ahead of its time. That thing was a couple hundred miles an hour faster than our torpedo bombers. I heard an analogy. It was like our torpedo bombers were just hanging there on a string. That's what it would have felt like to a Zero pilot. They just tore them up, crucified them. But anyways, so Kimmel doesn't listen. Pearl Harbor happens. One of the interesting tidbits from that is he was watching the attack from his house, and a 50 caliber bullet came through his window and grazed him. And it's reported that he said, boy, that'd have been more merciful if it had killed me, because he knew what was up. He's relieved of command, moved from a 4-star admiral to a 2-star rear admiral. That's a big demotion. Disgraced, embarrassed, and retires shortly after. In his place comes the namesake of one of the classes of our aircraft carriers, and that was Chester Nimitz. He takes over at the request of FDR, by the way. Nobody wanted that job. Half your fleet, if not, I don't know about half, but a lot of your fleet is sunk. You've got your carriers, but your battleships, 8 of them are out of commission or sunk. Just a mess. Nimitz goes in. He's not the kind of guy that pounds the table and inspires people that way. He just listens to what you have to say, and empowers the people, essentially, and that's how he gets the job done. There's this guy there who's just this extravagant code breaker, and I'm going to order his book today because I just want to read it. His name was Joe Rochford. He just eccentric guy. He's got I want to call them table horses. That's not sawhorses set up. Just everything everywhere. Just maps of the Japanese fleet's command stuff, messages. I mean, just dude wears slippers and a smoking jacket around. So everybody thinks he's a little crazy. So it's after Pearl Harbor, and it's reported that FDR told Nimitz, Get your ass out of Pearl Harbor and don't come back until you've won the war. Big orders. So there's this little island, and it's called Midway Island. And it's out in the middle of the Pacific. But it's very strategic because, it was U.S. held. But if the Japanese could take this island, they could reach mainland, easily Pearl Harbor, and mainland U.S. no problem. And the war would be very, very different. That's their target. So Rochefort knows this because Japan's talking about this target called AF that they're going to attack, right? And Washington doesn't listen to him. There's no way, how do you know it's not Seattle or San Francisco or Pearl Harbor again, or, you don't know. You have no evidence to support this. You're a dude that wears a smoking jacket and slippers and runs around cuckoo. And you have no supporting evidence other than a message from months ago that you vaguely recall that the Japanese mentioned AF, and the only possible place it could have been due to their location was Midway Island. That's a stretch. They don't listen. So he goes and backdoors the channel to Nimitz and tells Nimitz, this is what they're going to attack, Midway Island. Nimitz listens, but he says, I have to have proof. I can't commit my fleet and risk running into a trap without something a little more substantial than just your hunch. But he's listening, okay? That's key. So Rochefort and I don't know who all else is involved in this, come up with this idea that they're going to send a fake message saying that Midway Island is experiencing water shortages due to the water, plant not producing water, and it's an extreme emergency. And sure enough, later that day, the Japanese broadcast a transmission that water shortage at Target AF. There's the proof. Nimitz listens. They make a plan. And without getting into the Battle of Midway, which is another conversation, and a fascinating one that I could talk a while on, essentially takes the trap that Yamamoto was planning for the U.S. at Midway to draw them out, attack Midway, draw out the carriers, destroy the American fleet, take a step toward winning the war. Basically flips the script on Yamamoto and counter traps him. Traps his trap and sinks all 4 of his carriers, and the rest is history. Decisive victory at Midway. 3,000 people lost their lives at that battle. Japanese and U.S. by huge naval battle. Turned a tide. That changed the whole war, and man. So the moral of that story, and I'm getting a little long, don't dismiss people. Listen to hear, not listen to respond. Just because you think someone's a little hee-hee, and they may be a little you have to decipher through that for yourself. But listen, and don't dismiss people. Great story. I look forward to reading this book because I want to hear a little bit more about Rochefort and how he was able to decode all these. And they were only decoding about 20% of the Japanese message. They couldn't see it all. I like how they portrayed it on the movie Pearl Harbor. It's like when he was explaining it to Nimitz, he said, I really don't have proof, but what I could tell you is look at the subtleties that go around this, okay? If somebody's planning a wedding, look at who the caterer is booked, the band is booked. How do you find all these little outlying things without knowing the location of the wedding, and thus figure out where it's at? And that's what he did. We're 20% of the code. And, the memory of, perfection, whatever you want to call it. picture perfect memory, whatever you want to call it. To recall a message that had been broadcast months earlier about just a random message about passing target AF and no other communication on it. Anyhow, there you have it, folks. In a nutshell, that's how Midway was won by the U.S. and fascinating stuff. I mean, go out there, you can read about it, watch it, all kind of documentaries, and they get really deep, really fun stuff, and really interesting stuff. But listen to people. That's the motto of this message. Don't dismiss people. Listen to hear, then make your decision based on that, on facts. Anyhow, take care, everybody. It's hotter than Hades out here, so I don't know how long I'll sit out here and enjoy this pipe, but wanted to get out and say hey and have a pipe and see where the day takes me. May go to the camper this afternoon and chill out, but I don't know. We'll see. Be well, everybody. Take care, and we will catch you next time. Have a great day.